somebody finally came out with a cage for the R5 II. And today we're gonna unbox it and I'm gonna show you the features as to why I bought this one instead of some other ones. And it's just good. So let's get straight into it. So there's a few reasons why you need a cage, as well as I bought this cage. I bought this cage because it had a bunch of really interesting features and I liked it. I am using some old parts from my other cage from my R5 I that unfortunately does not fit the R5 II because the R5 II is just a little bit taller. We're talking like a ½ millimeter. Things you might need a cage for, attaching everything to it. So I need to attach my monitor, a mic, and a bunch of other stuff, handles, a tripod bottom, and a bunch of other things. And it's got attachments everywhere. And so that's why I like to have a cage on my camera. It also protects your camera for the most part. I mean, it's a metal frame that you put on your camera and it protects it. The reason I bought this cage, main two reasons here. One, it is all one piece, which is really nice. It's also kind of not nice if you need to travel and take it apart, but my other one, I had to take it apart and a lot of those screws came loose and it wasn't like a nice joint. The joints kind of still moved even if they're all the way screwed in, even with thread locker. So this is an all one piece. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is it doesn't have a ton of attachments like my Condor Blue one did. This one, it does have a decent amount of screw holes, you know, 3/8 and 1/4, but my Condor Blue one had a ton of spots to put things on. And it's obviously not going to be color matched, but it'll be functional. And that's all that matters in filmmaking. It doesn't matter if it looks pretty, although it is nice. But I'm gonna put my camera on this cage and we'll see kind of how it goes. And although I can appreciate a lot of these companies putting magnetic tools on the bottom, they don't always stay and you're likely to lose that tool because the magnet's not that strong, so I would keep this safe. Oh yeah, the other reason I bought this is because it has a secondary attachment. So most cages that I found in the past for like my R5 I only attach via the base plate and that's it. And I have a really heavy lens, the 28-70, and that puts a lot of frontward force onto everything. And that can make your camera rub up against the pieces that go around the front of it right here and a bunch of other things that are not great. So one cool thing this does, and I think the small rig one does as well, is it has little nubs in here that you can take on and out, and they basically go through your camera strap point on your camera. And that makes it super nice to be able to, secure your camera both on the top of it and the bottom of it so that it doesn't have torque on it when you're using it. It pretty much has a consistent force on both the top and the bottom so that your camera's not constantly being twisted, which is not good for it, especially if it's on the base plate because your camera can get, yanked off at some point, especially if you're putting stuff on like a, autofocus motor and a bunch of other stuff. So I have to take these off. I'm gonna put my camera on and we'll see how cool this looks and how functional it actually is. It also looks like they have small springs on those top attachment pieces that will help it kind of stay compressed in there. One of my springs stayed in and the other one stayed in the actual piece that comes out. So be careful that you don't lose these springs. I don't know why one was stuck and the other one wasn't, but it's okay because I still have them and I didn't lose it yet. So that's, a plus. And I definitely recommend using a screwdriver because this tool, although is nifty that it's an all-in-one, it's not nice to hold on to, but I do appreciate it still. And personally, I didn't put this on yet, but maybe in the future, depending on how it goes, putting a little bit of medium strength thread locker because that is removable, but also you don't want these screws to come out because good luck finding new ones. All right, so I've got my camera in the cage and it is nice and solid. I really like it because your camera doesn't wiggle around. It's literally stuck in with 3 points of attachment. So no matter how much you try to wiggle it, it's not going to rub up against your camera body and get it all scratched up and worn out over time. Obviously, you can still access your battery compartment just as easily as your SD card compartment, which is nice. And then you still have access to the side components like your HDMI and things. It even comes with a little mount on the side to hold your cables so that your cables don't rip out your actual port. So it looks like they did something kind of nifty. Normally on cages, you may notice that this extra attachment that holds your HDMI cable and your USB-C is attached to the actual base of the cage. This one utilizes the existing hole that you would use for the plastic one that comes with your camera, and you attach it to that, and then it has movable adjustment, clamps basically. So you can move it down and then tighten it, and it'll hold that cable tight for an adjustable thickness of cable, which is really cool because, although having this in general helps your ports not get destroyed, having it clamped in there is even better, which is what my Condor Blue cage had, was some sort of clamping mechanism that wasn't as nice to use and the screws would come loose, but it was still great. But it also attached to the cage, which gave it a lot of extra security. So that's kind of cool. I do like that. It is adjustable and it's nice that way. On that same side, we have some options for mounts. You could mount a handle, which is what I bought, and a bunch of other stuff. And then on the other side, you have the same thing to mount more handles. I plan on mounting a pre-existing handle to one side and then a new handle to the other side. The other thing is my top handle. My top handle also uses a NATO mount, which there isn't one up here, so I'm going to have to add one, which isn't my favorite thing. I do have an extra one laying around somewhere that I'll put on top so I can add this handle, because this one is just way too big. All in all, it still leaves you plenty of room to mess with anything that you need to. You have some mounts that you can utilize, and then obviously your grips and your handles will add more mounting points, which is super beneficial. But my favorite part of this is the triple locking mechanism to be able to lock it in completely. I honestly could even keep this inside the cage all times, and I would be happy with that. I don't even see a need, because this cage is so slim that you can still hold and mess with your shutter. You can hold it like you're taking photos, so I could still even take photos with the cage on. It's not super uncomfortable or anything weird, so I would probably just take the handles off if I'm doing photography. But it's a nice little protector to have for your camera. And then lastly, the bottom is your standard tripod mount. I believe it's Arca Swiss or something similar to that, but it should fit on most tripods that have the quick release and not your Manfrotto type, but maybe even. So it'll definitely fit on my Peak Design and some other ones that I have, like up here, but that is really it for the cage. I'm just gonna spend the rest of this putting it together, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. All right, this is the almost finished product. I have two handles, one on each side. I'll put a mic up here. This handle actually twists, which is why I wanted to keep it. This one doesn't. And then I will be adding this handle grip on the top here with a small NATO mount that I have to find somewhere. I don't know where it's actually at. So that will be your final result there. So that's really the whole cage setup. Obviously I'd put my monitor on top of that and a couple of accessories, but it's pretty sweet. And I definitely recommend getting a cage for your camera in general, or if you're looking for one for the R5 II, there's a few brands like Small Rig and Tilta that came out with it, which is what I have, Tilta. So take a peek, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.